Spring is sprung, and as the nicer weather approaches, that means more get-togethers. Whether it's Mother's Day, Easter, or graduations, we're getting together with our loved ones. And one way to do that is with a brunch. Today, I'm making a perfect dish just for that. It's called the vegetable strata. Think of it as a soufflé casserole or a savory bread pudding. It's not real heavy and it's packed with colorful vegetables. Let's get started. So the first step to making this strata is the bread. And I'm using a challah bread today. You could use a French bread, you could use a brioche, but I like this one. It has a nice texture. And I'm just cutting it into bite-sized pieces. You're gonna need about 6 cups altogether. And then you're gonna wanna put it in a bowl, a large bowl, so that the air gets to it and it dries out a little bit. Because later on, when we add our other ingredients, we want to make sure that the bread absorbs all of those flavors. Nothing fancy, just a rough chop. You could even tear it with your hands if you chose to. So now that our bread's all cut up and going to air dry, I'm going to start our next process, which is the vegetables for our vegetable strata. And I want to get my red onion on the burner first because they take a little bit longer. And I'm using this purple or red onion because it has great color and flavor. Let's go get this on the stove and start sauteing it. Just a couple tablespoons of olive oil and that's it. We have our vegetables, and remember, you eat with your eyes first, so you want this to be nice and bright and colorful. I have a red pepper. I sliced up 2 zucchinis, a couple yellow squash, nice and thin, because we want them to cook evenly with our purple onions. Everybody cuts a pepper different. This is how I cut it. I just go around, and this way I'm not really getting into too many of the seeds. And then I'm just going to cut them into bite-sized pieces because we want every piece to have a little bit of every vegetable. You may also want to add things like mushrooms or a thinly sliced white potato. For something heartier, you could add diced ham or some sausage, but I know for my Easter breakfast, I'm going to be doing a baked ham. So I'm keeping this all vegetables, and it's a nice option for those who are vegetarians. So now I'm going to add this to our onions that have been sauteing for a few minutes. Let's bring these on over. Our onions are sauteing nicely, and let's add these beautiful spring colors. It looks like a lot, but they'll cook down. We're going to cook these for about 5 to 10 minutes. Once they get soft, we're going to add a couple more ingredients to it. So right now we can just let it saute. So our vegetables are sauteing nicely, they're getting soft, and we're going to add 2 more ingredients to that. And that would be 1 teaspoon of onion powder, about a tablespoon of minced garlic. It's about 2 or 3 cloves. Give that a toss and let those flavors absorb. Probably cook it for another, just 5 minutes and it'll be done. It smells so good. And look at those colors. So the next step to our strata is making the custard. And for this part, you're going to need a mixer, whether it's a stand-alone mixer or just a handheld. But it'll help unless you really want to work up those muscles. So we're starting with 1 block, an 8-ounce block of cream cheese. And I let this sit out about 45 minutes because you want it to be nice and soft at room temperature. It'll help cream more easily. And we're going to start it on slow. Start whipping that up. And then to that, we're adding 1/3 cup of half and half. A teaspoon of kosher salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper. And I always make sure I scrape my bowl down to make sure all the ingredients are incorporated. So just take the spatula, scrape it down. And now I want to add 6 eggs to our mixture. And remember, crack your eggs first in a separate little bowl so that there's no shells caught in them. Okay, all 6 eggs are in there. We're mixing it for about 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's just lift this up, scrape it one more time, and then we're going to put all our ingredients in with our bread. Okay, this is the fun part. We have our big bowl of bread that's all dried and ready to go. And we're gonna add our vegetables. Do you see why I chose these? They're so colorful and it makes me think of spring. It smells so yummy. Let's toss that all together, making sure that it's well blended. Next step is adding our custard mixture. Just pour that right over. Get all that goodness in there. We want to make sure this is really well incorporated because we want every piece to soak in the egg and the cream cheese and the half and half. All right, that looks pretty good. And now we just want to add the last ingredient, which is cheese. We have a cup of a mild cheddar cheese and I have a cup of Swiss. I'm using Gruyere today. Let's toss that. Looking good. Now let me grab my pan and we'll get it all assembled. So we're going to put this together in a springform pan. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, it comes like this. It's 2 pieces and it's really simple. You just put the ring around it, close it up, and it becomes 1 piece. I always use this on top of a baking sheet because there's a lot of liquid in this and sometimes it might seep out. So we want to spray this with some nonstick spray because we're going to remove our strata later on and put it on a pretty cake stand. So let's get all this into here. It looks like a lot, but we're going to press it down as we assemble it. It'll be much easier at your house because you're not facing a camera. So we just press this down, and now we want to get some plastic wrap to cover it because this needs to sit in the fridge for 2 to 3 hours, or better yet, overnight. That way all the flavors really come together. And to me, that's why I make this. I can make it the day ahead of time, and then that morning I just bake it off. The house smells delicious and the kitchen is all cleaned up. All right, let's get this in the fridge. It's sat for 2 hours in the refrigerator, so now I'm going to bake it in a 350-degree oven for about an hour to an hour and 20 minutes. But everybody's oven is different, so you want to make sure you check it probably around the hour mark. So here's our finished vegetable strata. I let it cool for about 15 minutes before I took an offset spatula to the edge of my springform pan, released it, and then put it on this pretty cake stand. This, along with some French toast muffins, a baked ham, and some fresh fruit, will be a lovely brunch for you and your family to enjoy. I hope you'll make it.